Polishing up a motorcycle exhaust system can be a time-consuming, tricky thing. Over the years, I've polished many of them, and I'm going to try to share some of the things that I've been able to do on my small motorcycle collection that have added some nice, I think, some nice touches to the motorcycle, some custom touches. None of it is really hard to do. It's labor intensive, but it really amounts to be almost no money for the polish and for the little drill attachments and a couple of microfibers. And I think in the end, if you do this to any motorcycle, and we have many, many other polishing videos, including polishing the GS engine, out on our channel. If you do this, I think you'll be pretty satisfied with the result. But again, once again, it is a little time consuming. Now, today's shop project, and what I'm going to try to share on this video, is what I've learned about polishing up motorcycle exhausts, some of the different techniques that I've used. Most of them are very basic, simple things you can buy at Harbor Freight. Very inexpensive to do, but it is labor intensive. And so if you're so inclined to not spend a lot of money, but be willing to do a little bit of work, you can get that exhaust system on your bike, well, better than it was when it left the factory. That's what I always say, and I mean it. Now we're in the third riding season with this MT-09 that my wife got me for my 75th birthday present. I've done a lot of mods to it, but one of the things that most people notice right away is, and it's a totally stock exhaust, but it's highly polished. Now most of the bikes in my collection, I've been able to polish the exhaust without taking them off the bike. Relatively simple, easy, straightforward thing, but again, it is labor intensive. So there's three basic materials that exhaust systems are usually made of. Older bikes, this is an 82, they're usually made out of steel and chrome plated. Many modern sport bikes, like this is an 09 R1. The exhausts are made out of titanium. You can see by the way the pipes turn blue and red and the variety of colors that when they oxidize from heat. But again, they're easy to polish. Now this is the third season on this bike, the third riding season we're approaching. And when I originally polished these pipes up, I polished the exhaust. I made a video for the channel. It's still out there. It was from polishing it from stock, which was absolutely flat. It's been polished, and the polish has held up pretty well, except for one area, and you can understand why. On an MT-09, the fender is short. It's a naked bike, so a lot of people will put a little bit of an extension on that fender with a piece of plastic so that it doesn't throw stone chips up at the pipe. Well, I didn't do that. And now we're 2 years into it, and the pipes here in the front have a lot of little stone chips. So what I'm going to do, and this would apply to any bike, any exhaust system material, is get some 2000 grit sandpaper, some soapy water or some Windex, and just scuff and try to get the pipes flat using a sanding block or by hand or both. Once the material is flat, then I can repolish it, and I'll show the tools and the technique I use for polishing. Again, it's pretty basic, pretty simple, but it is labor intensive. So the first thing I'm using, 2000 grit Indasa Rhino wet paper. This is called Red Line. You can get it from Amazon if you don't have a body shop anywhere handy. We also use this for paint work too, so it's handy to have this in the shop. This is a soft sanding block. Use it for paint work. If you don't have this, it isn't really necessary, but this helps you get into some little tight spots. Anything you can do to get into the tight spots where the pipes come together. This is a handy thing to have when you're doing this kind of work. Now I'm not sure you can really see all the little pitting, and that's from little stones, just 2.5 years of stones going up here. Of course, when they come up, if you're riding at high speed, it puts a little dent in the pipe, and that's what we're going to try to get out today, as well as we're going to try to refresh all of the polishing on it little by little and bring this back to, as I always say, better than new. So step one is I have a handy little flashlight to find, and it accents all the little areas that I want to address. I got the 2000 grit sandpaper, a little bit of Windex, soapy water would be fine, anything, just to keep the sandpaper fresh. I'm wiping it every once in a while, but I have to sand it until all the little pitting is gone, and I have a flat surface. And you can imagine this is like taking a shotgun blast every time you hit some pebbles. And on a sport bikes, of course, it chews up the plastic. On an MT-09, that front part takes a beating. But eventually you can get in the 2000 grit paper, keep it wet. You know, they do it by hand or a block, it'll come out great. Then the final thing is by hand, so I can get around the curvature of the pipe. Is the 2000 grit paper, but I want to do it until I get all the little pock marks, little divots out. And the 2000 grit paper, if you keep it wet, whether you use a block or by hand, it'll get all of the pitting out. Now, on this, and you can see how dull it is, it's flat and dull relative to the part that's still polished. But that part now, I'm going to use this tool. It's a Harbor Freight tool. And it's a very simple thing. It's a polishing ball that goes in a 1/4-inch drill. Mother's Mag and aluminum polish is one of the good polishes, but there are several others. Any kind of polish will usually work. Now, the shape of that ball is really critical in the fact that it'll get a nice job where the two pipes kind of come together. But every one of the tools that I'm going to show has a different place where it's handy. If you only have one or two, you can still do the job, but having all of the little tools, and they're usually $3 to $5 each in Harbor Freight. No big deal. They all snap into an electric drill. And you can pretty much figure out all of the areas that we sanded. The first thing I want to do is get them polished. And the ball will polish most of the flat surfaces. Then I try to take the tools like all of these, and I have a bucket full of these. And they seem to last forever. And the only thing is they make little extensions for the drill that make it easier to get the polishing part down in between the pipes and into the areas up around the radiator and stuff. Just makes it easier. Now, probably if you have a lift, I have one. I just don't bother putting a bike on it for a small job like this. This is only about an hour and a half job. But having it up high, it'd make it a little more comfortable, but I'm used to working on my triple rugs. I have a garage full of it. It's got several old rugs, and it's relatively comfortable. I don't know how comfortable it is compared to a waterbed, but anyway, it allows me to get in some of these places. It'd probably be a good thing I should have put my goggles on, but then with the goggles, it kind of distorts your vision down here in the shaded areas. Now, this is the Flitz orange buffing ball that you can buy from Amazon or from Flitz. And this really puts the final touch on anything. Now at this point, once you have the shine back, the final polish, if you do it with Flitz and the big buffing ball, it'll really come out nice. But a side benefit of using Flitz at the very end of the job is it'll leave some protection on so you won't have to polish it quite as often. And it does give some resistance to oxidation. Now this is my shoe shine rag. It's a piece of microfiber with some polish on it. Now, back in the old days, I used to use this technique for polishing a whole bunch of things, and believe it or not, it still works pretty good. And of course, everything here is in fast forward by 10, so you don't get a real feel for how long it takes to bring up the shine, but it'll bring it up. And I said, well, there's a lot of good polishes. I know some people prefer to use 8065. Some people like rubbing compounds of various grits, but Flitz is 6,000, and the thing to always remember about Flitz, that's the last product you want to put on. Don't try to polish anything with it. It's a lot easier. To me, it's a lot easier if you polish with rougher grits. These are probably 3,500 grit, and then save the Flitz for the end and for that protection. And this is where having the thin wheel, where you can get in between here, I'm getting in between the pedals and various other little things that are in the way. But being able to have a little assortment of tools that plug into the drill and being able to figure out where and when they're easiest to use, pretty kind of self-explanatory. Now, in this case, this MT-09 exhaust system has some little quirks where the pipes come together and where some of the things where the sensor attaches in, and getting in that area there with the pointy wheel, and getting in here with the pointy wheel, and even with a Dremel tool with them little attachments. And ultimately at the end of it, at the very end of it, I always like to detail the final little corners and edges and in between where the two pipes come together. And I like to do the part where the pipes go up buy the radiator by hand. I'm just afraid that the tool would get in there and maybe damage the radiator somehow. So there's always some part of the job that you have to do by hand. Of course, a lot of people have asked me, do you polish it on the bike or do you take it off the bike? That's the first question. Well, if you can take it off the bike and go over to a buffing wheel, it might be easier to a certain amount. But then this is the kind of thing I think is relaxing to me, is knowing I've got the hard part done with the wheel and all those little attachments, and especially that Flitz orange buffing ball. And at the very end, getting up in these little corners and angles and edges, all the parts that you normally can't get a tool into. Well, at the end, it's just hand labor. And then I like to maintain the bike. I do this every so often, especially if I've gotten caught in the rain or riding in the winter and there's salt, because I really want to keep the bike. This bike is a very special bike to me. One of the bikes I have since new. I have 3 bikes, and actually 3.5, that I've had since new, what it have been in the family. And when I'm done, I like to sit back and look at that. To me, that adds a dimension to the motorcycle that you just can't put a price tag on. And basically, I haven't spent a lot of money to do it. So that's basically how I polish the exhaust systems on my small, humble motorcycle collection. And I would suggest, if you're doing a chrome exhaust, use chrome polish. The mag and wheel polish and aluminum wheel polish, the mothers, it seems to work well on titanium and whatever material the MT09 is. I'm not sure what it is. And it works good on stainless, by the way. The electric drill is from Harbor Freight, a very inexpensive drill. And all these little attachments, you can build up a nice little collection of them for probably under $20. So the thing is always to remember, it's a small amount of money and a labor of love. And that usually results in something when people see your bike the first time, or you park next to a stock one and you go, whoa, that really is worth it. The labor of love always seems to pay. Now, some other information that might be interesting or useful, we have on our channel, and you can search our channel with engine polishing, GS1100. And there's several really popular videos that have in 6 figures of hits. So I know somebody's gotten some, and I get good comments about it, and somebody's gotten some good information about them. Another tip, that black chrome, now this is an 86 exhaust on an 82 bike. That black chrome, I have had a problem with that. It's kind of deteriorating, but it's 38 years old now. So I don't know how to improve it. I've tried a lot of things. Black chrome, if you know, let me know. And the exhaust system is such a defining thing on any motorcycle, even on a CBX. When you polish those pipes up, well, it changes everything. And I was never happy when I bought the MT09. I did not buy it thinking I was going to keep it stock. I knew right away I wanted to make all these mods. The paintwork, the windshield, the polishing, painting the wheels, all of them are on dedicated videos on my channel. And you can search it by whatever you're looking for. There's a really good video on how to polish a master cylinder. And believe me, not as easy as it looks. It's not a 5-minute job either. But when it's done, boy, does it change. Polishing a swing arm, one of the most popular videos on our channel is the recent one I made on polishing a swing arm. And that is such a labor-intensive thing. Polishing all the mufflers, the mufflers on the FZR and on the 750 that I have. I've made dedicated videos of polishing mufflers. And again, it makes a big difference to me. It adds that little special custom touch. And I'm always happy when I can do something that doesn't cost me a lot of money. It's just a lot of work. The work is, I can do it. But I hate spending a lot of money and then not being happy with the result. Anyway, I hope you did enjoy the video. And on our channel, we do paint work. We go for some nice rides with our friends, some rides alone. And we have the Evil Twin projects where we make 2 bikes out of 1, or 1 bike out of 2, and even an Evil Triplet. A lot of carbon fiber work out on the channel. And always the maintenance of these motorcycles. If you have a small old collection of bikes like I have, you're going to know how to do some of this stuff. You won't have much of a choice. I hope this video helped. And thanks so much for watching.